Ambassador Xylthor of the Galactic Federation nervously adjusted his breathing apparatus as he reviewed the nomination file for the third time. The document glowed softly on his crystalline desk, its contents both fascinating and deeply disturbing. His six-fingered hands trembled slightly as he scrolled through page after page of incomprehensible human behavior. Planet designation, Earth 3, he read aloud to his assistant, Kix. Species, humans. Classification, Death World inhabitants with extreme survival adaptations. Kix's tentacles writhed anxiously. "Sir, are you certain about this nomination? The Most Terrifying Planet Award is usually reserved for worlds with actual monsters, like the acid-spitting predators of Mortis Prime or the psychic vampires of the Void Nebula." Xylthor's four eyes blinked in sequence. "Oh, my dear Kix, after reading these reports, I'm convinced Earth doesn't need monsters. The humans are the monsters." He pulled up a holographic display showing a blue-green world orbiting a violent yellow star. "Look at this place. Massive tectonic plates that shift and create mountain-destroying earthquakes. Weather systems that spawn rotating death funnels called tornadoes. Frozen water that falls from the sky and can kill you. Oceans filled with creatures that can swallow their vessels whole." The display shifted to show various human activities. And the humans? They've learned to predict these disasters, named them, categorized them, and just continue living there? They actually have festivals celebrating their survival of natural catastrophes. "But sir, many species adapt to harsh environments." "Kix." Xylthor's voice dropped to a whisper. "They have a sport where they voluntarily throw themselves out of flying vehicles for fun. They call it skydiving and treat it as entertainment. They also slide down mountains covered in frozen water at deadly speeds, dive into freezing oceans to hunt fish, and climb vertical rock faces without safety equipment." He pulled up another file. "They consume plants that burn their mouths and call it spicy food. They seek out dangerous wild animals just to observe them. And when they encounter something that could kill them, their first instinct isn't to run, it's to see if they can domesticate it or turn it into a sport." The room fell silent, except for the gentle hum of the life support systems. "Submit the nomination," Xylthor commanded. "The Galactic Council needs to see this." The Galactic Council's research division had 3 months to compile evidence for each nominated planet. Team leader Vashti, a methodical being from the Archives planet Bibliotech with 7 academic degrees in xenobiology, took personal charge of the Earth file. Her crystalline exoskeleton had begun developing stress fractures from the constant anxiety. Research log, day 15, she spoke into her recording device with trembling vocal cords. "I have discovered that humans have something called extreme sports. I initially assumed this referred to competitive activities during their planet's severe weather events. I was catastrophically wrong. They create dangerous situations for entertainment." She pulled up video files transmitted from Earth's global network, her optical sensors struggling to process what she was seeing. Subject: humans willingly leap from elevated surfaces with only elastic cords preventing death. They call this bungee jumping. But the psychological horror deepens. The next video showed humans strapping boards to their feet and launching themselves off snow-covered mountains at speeds that would liquefy most species. This is skiing. They accelerate down steep inclines covered in frozen water, using only thin strips of material for control. Some variants involve jumping off artificial ramps while performing aerial acrobatics. Vashti paused the recording and administered herself a mild sedative to calm her 3 hearts. Research log, day 23. "I have discovered something called Australia. This appears to be a continent-sized death trap that humans not only chose to inhabit, but actively defend against colonization attempts. Everything there is venomous, poisonous, or capable of killing an adult human in creative ways. The human's response? They developed a peculiar form of humor about it and made it a tourist destination. She displayed a human social media post. "Just found a spider in my boot this morning, only mildly venomous, so it's gonna be a good day. Taking the kids to the beach to swim with the sharks later. Hashtag just Aussie things. Hashtag living the dream." Research log, day 31. I need immediate psychological counseling and possibly memory erasure therapy. I've learned about something called parkour. Humans deliberately navigate urban environments by jumping between buildings, treating the architecture of their cities as obstacle courses. When asked why, one human responded, "Why not? Life's too short to use stairs." This response has caused 3 researchers to request transfers to safer projects, like studying black hole formation. Vashti stared at her notes, then made a final entry with shaking appendages. Recommendation: immediate approval for most terrifying planet designation. Also requesting hazard pay, psychological counseling, and a transfer to literally anywhere else in the galaxy. The Great Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 47 different species gathered to review the nominations. High Counselor Maxanda, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline form that pulsed with anxiety, called the session to order. Several delegates had already requested additional security protocols upon learning that humans might be discussed. "We convene today to select this cycle's recipient of the Most Terrifying Planet Award," Maxanda announced, her voice resonating through the translation matrices. "We have 5 nominees: the plasma storms of Infernus VII, the psychic predators of Mindreaper, the reality-distorting anomalies of Paradox Prime, the temporal carnivores of Chronos Nexus, and Earth." A ripple of confusion passed through the assembly. Counselor Brethok of the warrior species Kraxon, whose people had conquered 17 star systems through sheer military might, spoke first. "High Counselor, I must object. Earth is barely a Class M death world. My people have faced far worse. We've battled the Void Hunters and survived the Crimson Nebula campaigns." "Have you read the file, Counselor Brethok?" interrupted Dr. Zenith from the medical colony of Healer's Rest, her usually calm demeanor replaced by visible agitation. "Because I have, and I've had to increase my anxiety medication dosage to levels that would kill most carbon-based life forms." Ambassador Zylthor stood, his breathing apparatus working overtime. "If I may present our findings to the esteemed assembly." The lights dimmed, and a holographic display filled the center of the chamber. Exhibit A: Human Children's Entertainment. The display showed cartoon characters involved in elaborate, violent scenarios. Characters being crushed by massive objects, exploded, and dropped from great heights, only to recover instantly with comedic timing. They conditioned their offspring to view extreme violence as humorous, Zylthor explained, his voice barely steady. They show children creatures being hunted, captured, and subjected to environmental hazards as educational programming. But the psychological conditioning gets exponentially worse. Exhibit B: Human Medical Practices. The display shifted to show primitive surgical procedures, with humans calmly slicing into other humans while the patients remained conscious. When ill or injured, humans voluntarily allow other humans to cut them open and rearrange their internal organs. They call this surgery and consider it routine healthcare. Counselor Veltar of the Peaceful Harmony Collective raised a wing, her feathers ruffled with distress. "Surely this barbaric practice is performed under deep sedation to prevent psychological trauma?" "Often, yes, but frequently they remain conscious and engage in casual conversation with the surgeon during the procedure. They discuss weather, family events, and recreational activities while their organs are being manipulated. Several council members had to leave the chamber at this point, requiring medical attention for stress-induced molting. Exhibit C, Xylthor continued relentlessly, human conflict resolution. The display showed historical footage of human warfare. When disagreeing with other human groups, they organize massive gatherings where they attempt to kill each other with increasingly sophisticated tools. They've developed weapons capable of destroying their entire planet multiple times over. High Counselor Mexanda's crystalline form flickered with distress. And they've used these weapons? Twice, on themselves. Then they decided the weapons were too dangerous and put them away, while keeping thousands of them for deterrent purposes. The chamber erupted in shocked chatter. Counselor Brethok slumped in his seat. By the great warrior's blade! My people pride themselves on our combat prowess, but we've never created planet-killing weapons just to prove a point. Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Diplomatic Corps received the transmission at 0800 hours while enjoying her morning coffee aboard the embassy ship Harmony's Voice. The caffeine-laden beverage, itself considered a mild stimulant drug by most galactic species, nearly went down the wrong pipe when she read the message. "What?" she shouted, causing her aide, Lieutenant Patel, to rush into the room with his hand instinctively moving to his sidearm, a reaction that would have terrified most aliens. "Ma'am, is everything all right? Are we under attack?" Sarah waved the holographic message frantically. The Galactic Council wants to give Earth an award for being the most terrifying planet in known space. They've compiled an 847-page report documenting why humans are apparently the scariest species in the galaxy. Patel blinked, processing this information. Should I be offended or proud? My grandmother survived the Mumbai monsoons and 3 earthquakes. She'd probably take this as a compliment. I honestly don't know. Sarah scrolled through the evidence file, her expression shifting from bewilderment to grudging acceptance. They're terrified because we have extreme sports? Because we live in Australia? Because we perform surgery while awake? They flagged our military training exercises as systematic preparation for apocalyptic warfare scenarios. She paused at a video of her nephew's birthday party, complete with detailed analysis notes. They classified a children's birthday party as evidence of human psychological instability because we let kids hit a colorful container with sticks until candy falls out. The report calls piñatas ritualistic violence training disguised as celebration. To be fair, ma'am, when you describe piñatas like that to someone who's never seen one. Sarah groaned and rubbed her temples. Get me a secure line to Earth Command. We need to figure out how to respond to this without either starting an interstellar incident or accidentally proving their point. 3 hours later, she was in a video conference with Admiral Rodriguez, Director of Earth's Galactic Relations, whose office wall displayed awards from various peacekeeping missions that the aliens had somehow interpreted as conquest trophies. Captain Chen, the Admiral began, his weathered face showing a mixture of amusement and concern, I've reviewed the Council's findings with our xenopsychology team. What's your assessment from the front lines? Honestly, sir, I think they're not entirely wrong. I've been living among alien species for 2 years now, and I'm starting to realize we might actually be the scary ones in this relationship. How so? Sarah pulled up her personal interaction logs on her tablet. Last week, I casually mentioned to Ambassador Quickstall that I went skydiving on my last leave. He needed immediate medical attention for stress-induced molting and filed a formal complaint about gratuitous descriptions of suicidal behavior. The Admiral rubbed his temples. What do you recommend? Sir, I think we should accept the award graciously and use it to our advantage. If the galaxy thinks we're terrifying, maybe they'll stop trying to colonize our solar system. A slow smile spread across Admiral Rodriguez's face. Captain, prepare a response, and make it appropriately human. The awards ceremony was held on Neutral Station Alpha, a massive space station that served as the galaxy's diplomatic hub. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered in the Great Assembly, but notably, many seats were empty. Several species had declined to attend after learning humans would be present, with some citing safety concerns and others requesting psychological preparation time. Captain Sarah Chen walked to the podium with what she hoped was a friendly smile, though she'd been warned that human facial expressions showing teeth were considered threatening by 17 different species. The sea of alien faces staring back at her ranged from curious to terrified to downright hostile. She cleared her throat and began. Honored delegates of the Galactic Council, we are surprised but deeply grateful to receive this recognition, though I must admit we're somewhat confused about some of your findings. Her voice carried through the universal translators, though she noticed several delegates had turned their audio receivers to minimum volume. She activated a holographic display, carefully avoiding any sudden movements. You mentioned our extreme sports as evidence of our terrifying nature, but from our perspective, we see this differently. The display showed humans surfing massive waves that towered like moving mountains. This is how we play with our oceans. We don't see it as defying death, we see it as dancing with the forces that shaped our world. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably, and she noticed the Crystalline Collective had activated their emergency shielding. You were disturbed by our medical practices. But consider this. When we're broken, we fix each other. When we're sick, we heal each other. Yes, it involves cutting and stitching and replacing parts, but it's an expression of hope. The fundamental belief that tomorrow can be better than today, that no injury is permanent, that every life is worth saving. The display shifted to show a surgical team working tirelessly to save a patient's life, their faces focused but calm. You called our children's entertainment violent. Now it showed kids playing tag, laughing as they chased each other around playgrounds built to challenge and strengthen them. We call it learning. Through play, our children learn about conflict and resolution, about winning and losing gracefully, about cooperation and competition, all while experiencing the pure joy of being alive. Counselor Brethak leaned forward, his warrior's instincts engaged. But the weapons, human, the terrible weapons that could destroy entire worlds. Sarah's expression grew serious, and the assembly fell silent. Yes, we created them. We used them twice. And in that moment of absolute horror, we looked into the abyss of our own destructive potential and collectively said, never again. We didn't destroy the knowledge, that would be impossible and naive, but we've spent the last 80 years learning to choose creation over destruction, cooperation over conquest. She paused, looking around the assembly. You think we're terrifying because we've survived a world that tries to kill us daily, because we've learned to find joy in danger, healing in violence, hope in destruction? Maybe you're right. Maybe we are terrifying. Her smile returned, but now it carried an edge. But here's what you should know about humans. We're only terrifying to those who threaten the things we love. To our friends, to our allies, to those who share our vision of a galaxy where different species work together, we're the most loyal, protective, and dependable neighbors you could ask for. The assembly was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, Counselor Brethak began to clap. Other delegates joined in until the entire assembly was applauding. High Counselor Mixanda spoke. Captain Chen, your words give us much to consider. Perhaps terrifying was the wrong word. Perhaps formidable would be more accurate. Sarah grinned. High Counselor, we prefer determined. 6 months after the awards ceremony, Ambassador Xylthor sat in his office reviewing the most unusual reports of his long diplomatic career. Ever since Earth had won the Most Terrifying Planet Award, applications for human partnerships had increased by 300%, with some species offering premium rates for human consultation services. "I don't understand it, Kix," he said to his assistant, whose tentacles had developed a nervous twitch from processing the constant stream of requests. "We tell the galaxy that humans are terrifying, and suddenly everyone wants to work with them. We have a waiting list 3 parsecs long." Kix's tentacles writhed thoughtfully. "Perhaps it's because they're the kind of terrifying that works for you rather than against you, sir. Like having a controlled supernova in your backyard. Dangerous, but incredibly useful if properly directed." The latest reports made for fascinating reading, each one more improbable than the last. The mining consortium on Kepler 442b had requested human consultants after their operations were threatened by the planet's violent seismic activity that had claimed 17 mining platforms. The humans arrived, took one comprehensive look at the geological surveys, and said, "Oh, this is like California during earthquake season, but with better mineral deposits." They had the entire mining operation earthquake-proofed within 2 months using techniques called adaptive engineering and riding the wave. The agricultural colony on New Harmony had been losing crops to a native predator that their military security forces couldn't handle, a creature that had killed 43 colonists and destroyed 60% of their food production. A single human xenobiologist named Dr. Sarah Kowalski had arrived, studied the creature for 3 days through direct observation, then walked into its territory completely unarmed and returned 6 hours later with the alpha predator following her like a domesticated pet. She explained that the predators were simply protecting their territory and needed to be properly introduced to the neighbors through what she called interspecies diplomacy. Most remarkably, the meditation worlds of the Inner Spiral, a civilization dedicated to achieving perfect mental tranquility, had requested human teachers after learning about something called extreme mindfulness. This was apparently the human ability to maintain calm focus while in life-threatening situations, which they demonstrated by meditating during volcanic eruptions and achieving enlightenment while being chased by large predators. A chime indicated an incoming priority message marked with the highest diplomatic urgency codes. Xylfort opened it to find a request from the Kraxan warrior empire, whose battle-hardened soldiers were considered the fiercest fighters in 3 galactic quadrants. "The Kraxan want humans?" Kix asked, reading over his shoulder with growing disbelief. Xylthor scrolled through the request. "It seems their young warriors have been struggling with what they call insufficient challenge in their traditional training. They've heard about human military training programs and want to observe. Are we seriously considering sending humans to train Kraxan warriors?" Before Xylthor could answer, another message arrived, this one from Captain Chen on the Earth Embassy ship. "Greetings, Ambassador Xylthor. We've received the Kraxan request. We'd be happy to send a training team. Our Marines are excited about the cultural exchange opportunity. Also, we'd like to invite a delegation of Kraxan warriors to Earth for a wilderness survival retreat in what we call the Amazon rainforest. We think they'd enjoy it." Xylthor stared at the message for a long moment. "Kix, I'm beginning to think we may have created something wonderful and terrifying." "What's that, sir?" "The most unlikely but effective alliance in galactic history." 1 year later, the Galactic Council convened for their annual assessment meeting in what had become known as the post-human era. High Counselor Mexanda reviewed the reports with a mixture of amazement and bewilderment, her crystalline form pulsing with colors that hadn't been documented in diplomatic literature before. "Let me ensure I understand these developments correctly," she said to the assembled delegates, many of whom now wore small human-designed good luck charms. "The humans have solved the Kepler mining crisis by teaching the colonists to surf seismic waves in their equipment, turning geological disasters into energy harvesting opportunities. The New Harmony predator problem was resolved when Dr. Kowalski established the first interspecies wildlife preserve, which has become the galaxy's most popular ecotourism destination." She paused, consulting her notes with visible confusion. And the Craxon-human military exchange has resulted in what they're calling the galaxy's most effective peacekeeping force, though I'm told their training methods involve something called trust falls and team-building exercises in hostile environments. Counselor Brethok, who had returned from the Amazon exchange program 3 months earlier, stood with noticeable difficulty. His warrior's pride had taken quite a beating when he'd been comprehensively outmatched in jungle survival by a human teenager named Maria Rodriguez, who treated deadly snakes like cute danger noodles and had taught his elite warriors to make something called s'mores using volcanic vents. "High Counselor," he said, his voice carrying new humility, "I must formally request that we retire the Most Terrifying Planet Award permanently." The assembly murmured in surprise, with several delegates activating their recording devices. "The humans have taught us something profoundly important," Brethok continued, his battle-scarred hands gesturing emphatically. "True strength isn't about being the most dangerous or the most feared. It's about turning your worst circumstances into your greatest advantages. It's about finding joy in chaos, hope in darkness, and friendship in the most unlikely places. They've shown us that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision that something else is more important than fear." Ambassador Zylthor nodded in enthusiastic agreement. "I second this motion with complete conviction. In just 1 year, human involvement has resolved 14 major galactic conflicts, prevented 3 interstellar wars, and somehow made the meditation masters more effective by teaching them something called aggressive relaxation, which involves achieving inner peace while rappelling down waterfalls." Dr. Zenith from Healer's Rest added, "Their medical techniques have reduced galactic mortality rates by 23% and increased successful surgeries by 45%. Yes, their methods are terrifying to observe, but the results speak louder than our fears." High Counselor Mexanda considered this. "What would you propose as a replacement?" Captain Sarah Chen, now a permanent observer to the Council, stood from the human delegation section. "If I may suggest, how about most resilient species, or best galactic neighbors, or," she grinned, "most likely to turn a catastrophe into a learning experience?" The assembly erupted in laughter, a sound that had become much more common since humans joined the galactic community. "Very well," High Counselor Mexanda announced. "The Most Terrifying Planet Award is hereby retired. In its place, we establish the Outstanding Galactic Citizenship Award, and I believe we all know who our first recipients should be." As the assembly applauded, Captain Chen reflected on how far they'd all come. A year ago, the galaxy had been afraid of humanity. Now they were partners in the greatest adventure of all, building a better future together. She thought about her nephew's birthday party, the one that had so horrified the alien observers. Maybe hitting a colorful container with sticks until candy fell out wasn't such a bad metaphor for the human approach to life. When faced with something challenging, you keep trying different approaches until something good comes out of it. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, what comes out is friendship.